And you're welcome back again. Another big story here for our third hour on Breakfast Extra. We turn our attention to the rumors surrounding the return of environmental sanitation in Lagos State. Now, despite widespread speculation, the Lagos State government has firmly denied any intention to reinstate the policy. Now, you want to stay with us as we visit the details here as we're talking about the implications of that story now. Now, in recent days, there has been widespread speculation about the reintroduction of the monthly environmental sanitation exercise in Lagos State, accompanied by movements, restrictions. However, the Lagos State government did firmly deny these rumors. And according to the Commission for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, these reports are the works of mischief makers aiming to confuse residents. He emphasized that there will be no movement restrictions on the last Saturday of July, as falsely claimed in the viral news.
Now, the commissioner clarified that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's recent announcement was about initiating a weekly community-based sensitization and awareness exercise. This initiative will involve state officials leading by example, joining residents and voluntarily cleaning the environments while spreading the message of cleanliness. At no point did the governor indicate that the monthly sanitation exercise and movement restrictions would resume in July or any other month.
The reintroduction of the monthly environmental sanitation exercise would have been seen as a necessary measure by many, given the deplorable state of the environment in Lagos. Now, since the exercise was stopped, this has been the situation. Now, with the rainy season currently ongoing, the accumulation of waste or poor drainage systems have exacerbated flooding and also spread of disease. Many residents argue that reinstating the sanitation exercise would have been a welcome development, helping to mitigate these issues and promote a healthier, cleaner environment. So to explore this topic and provide more insight, we are pleased to welcome our guest, Engineer Olakunle Rotimi-Akodu, Special Advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Environment. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for coming on.
Please, Judith.
Yeah, so I must start with the rumors, right? We saw the circular or the press release in quotation marks that was littered on social media, and then, you know, the state government coming to quell the rumors and saying it's not true. But considering the denial of these rumors and regarding the reintroduction of movements restrictions for environmental sanitation, could you elaborate on what proactive measures are currently being taken by Lagos State to address environmental concerns without enforcing somewhat of a sort of movement or lockdown?
Yeah, thanks. Once again, thank you so much, Mazino and Judith. Well, I trust the state government. We are everly ready and proactive to take up challenges. But as it is, if you look at in recent times what is happening, the cholera challenge and a lot of other, unexpected, news coming out in terms of public health challenges, we're left with no choice but to do more, in that respect. The state already, we've mobilized, our team. They are everywhere in the market, in the public spaces, and sensitizing the public, market people, public schools, the garages, motor garages, and a whole lot of places where you have public, interest, concentrated. We're working on that. We're meeting people there, sensitizing them, educating them, and letting them understand why there is need for us to take care of our hygiene is very key. Look at the ministry. From Ministry of Environment, we just signed the WASH policy. It's about, water, sanitation, and hygiene. That's the kind of policy that we need to have in place for us to be able to achieve the lofty dreams in the area of water, sanitation, wastewater management, and general hygiene of the state. And besides, there's a move now. There's a body formed called One Health Mission. The One Health Mission policy initiative is simply to check, to chase out cholera, and that's why we have about, I think, 3 ministries coming together to work on that. We have Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources. We have Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Health bring the principal, focus of that.
So, Mr. Rotimi,
what that is all about is about, efforts, coming together to put efforts in place and to ensure that we chase out cholera.
Okay.
And cholera, what it means is evidence of filth.
Yes, exactly. I was coming to that actually.
So we have to make sure that we encourage our people to go back to what
fantastic. And these measures that you're using, going into markets and sensitizing people, is a great effort. However, many will say sensitizing people is one thing, creating the environment or facility is another thing. We have people who are willing, like we said in the intro, we told that most Lagosians are actually willing to actually have one day set aside to come out and clean the environment since this policy was abolished a while back. However, we notice that when these people, or when we are enthusiastic about cleaning the environment, we don't have the facilities or infrastructure to help us continue. We perhaps maybe clean our drainages and we put it right next to the gutters.
And when the rain comes,
it pushes it back inside of the gutter. Why is it that these drainages, especially the drainages, while we're talking about cholera and water being the vector, well, using that word loosely for the transmission of this disease, is, well, mainly what we find inside of our drainage along with the filth. Why don't we have facilities that enable us, once I put out my filth, that it's taken away immediately? What's Lagos State government doing about that?
Thank you. We're doing a lot with regards to that. Yeah, it's true that we've gotten reports of places where we pulled out silts from the drainages and it was left there longer than necessary.
Latif Jakande
yeah, that was left there no longer than necessary. Sometimes individuals do it, and people, tenements, residents do it, bring it out, expecting that government will come to cut away for them without communicating. Before you do those kind of things, you need to communicate with either the local government or the state government that, look, we're desilting our... people do it on their own, and they leave it there, expecting that government officials will still see it. So in situations like that, those things are left, longer than necessary. Ordinarily, by the ministry, once we bring it out, the silt, we call it desilting. Once we bring out the silt, or with some solid waste, that are there, max 24 hours, 48 hours, max.
So there's a time for that.
We have timing, and the reason is that sometimes, once you bring out those things, some of these silts are wet.
Yeah, always.
Some are extremely very wet. You cannot cut off immediately. If you try to take it off immediately, you'll be messing the whole of the streets.
So if the government
you allow it to drain off so that it solidifies to a point where you can cut off. So in that case, you need to leave it for like 24 hours usually.
For it to dry out.
Yes. Once you cut it out today, once you take it out today, in another 24 hours max, you should come back and take it.
So if the government has a timeline,
if it is solid already, we can cut it out and immediately cut it off.
So if the government has a timeline for bringing out this silt or desilting, 24 hours it's out, what about the schedule for actually excavating these gutters? Do they have one? Do I have to be a proactive citizen and say I'm going to do it myself and just hope that they'll come and take it? Why isn't there a schedule by the Lagos State government that runs perhaps maybe every 3 weeks or once a month that these gutters are cleared? There used to be something in the early 2000s. There were Lagos State docks, if I'm correct.
Drain docks.
The drain docks. Do they still exist? Do they still function?
Yes,
what happened to them?
They are there, and we have a FAG, Emergency Flood Abatement Gang. They also do it. And what that is about is wherever you feel, or sometimes we have officers that go on inspection and we keep record of services. Once you service a drain, you expect it to take a while before coming back. But unfortunately, what we have in our society now, in our environment, is people dumping solid waste, municipal solid waste, dumping things you don't expect. Thank God we have just, the ban on styrofoam is beginning to, show the effect, the impact, the positive impact of that ban is beginning to show now. That is quite, timely, banning the styrofoam. But our people are still used to, dump. They are still in the habit of dumping waste in the drain. So where you expect that, okay, you have cleaned this drain now, you expect to come back in another 2-3 months' time. But in less than a month, the place is filled up again. And there are so many of these drains that we need to service, we need to clean. You know, you have the canals, the big ones, you have the collectors, the medium ones, and you have the drains in front of your houses. All of these form a whole huge, you know, service demanding, you know, infrastructures that we need to look at and service. But the fact that our people continue to dump in the drain is posing more challenge, you know, at us. We have to ensure that we talk to our people, we sensitize them, we educate them the dangers of using the drain as dump site. When it was the last flood that we noticed that came around, you could notice that we got a picture of somebody trying to empty their waste in the drain.
There was that.
We're just lucky to get that. That happened, you know, almost on regular basis. People wait for the rain to come, and that's the time they want to empty their waste. And these things have, you know, backlash effect on
I mean, let's look at, you are the special advisor for when it comes to environment to the state government. So, I mean, it wouldn't be out of place to ask you about flooding and the management of managing issue, waste management, and as it pertains flooding. Lagos is in a rainforest whereby the water, when it rains, it pours in Lagos. The torrential rains is wild, and due to the population that we have, it can be very serious. What immediate steps is Lagos State taking to improve the drainage systems and waste disposal methods, especially given the flooding?
Thank you. On the flooding, let me take it from there before the solid waste management. On the flooding, you can see that we've been doing a lot. We started out early enough, clearing all the obstacles, all the obstructions on the drainage path, on the drainage right of way. You know, we anticipated this possibility that this is going to happen, and from the forecast, we've been told that the rain volume this year will be much higher than the average in the past. So we prepared well for it, and that has showed that we were ready for it, and we did well on it. Because when these floods come, it's just flash flooding. Before you know it, they are gone. And it is natural for these floods to stay a while, and that's why we call it flash flooding, after which they drain off. Because of our proximity to the major water bodies, you have the Atlantic Ocean, you have the sea, you have the creeks, you have, you know. So we are more like living inside water. So once we are living so close to those water bodies, then we have to prepare. Once it rains and the storm waters come, we have to prepare to drain them, you know, get them back to where they belong. So in terms of that, with majority or most of our canals, our drainages have been taken care of in terms of desilting, in terms of clearing the right of way, in terms of awarding, you know, contract almost immediately, so that those things will be concretized and no further obstructions can come upon it. Mr. Governor is very, very concerned about that, and often, even at the ESCO meeting, these are some of the things he made mention. You know, he keeps talking about that. Look, he doesn't want to hear anything about flooding, that it rains and there's flood. Flash flooding is understandable, but that flood will stay on there 2, 3, 4 days, and more diseases and pathogens will begin to spread. No, he doesn't want any of that. And good enough, we've been able to handle that. We're still doing more, and there's still more to do, really, because you know, we have challenges of misinformation, people going around to say they are being witch hunted. Some of these things we're doing is deliberately targeted at, you know, certain people, or, you know, which is not. You understand? The whole idea, the whole essence is to ensure that we clear the right of way, we prepare the drainages, the channels, to accommodate and to serve as conduit to take these waters back to where they belong. So we're doing that on solid waste. On the solid waste, we're doing so much around it too. Remember that if you notice that we signed an agreement with an MOU, rather, not an agreement. We had an MOU. We just signed an MOU with Juspong. That's a Ghanaian waste management company. They are not just into solid waste. They also do deal in liquid, you know, liquid waste. But majorly on solid waste, they're coming in to support our efforts in the management of municipal solid waste. Usually, that's waste to wealth. Most of these things we call waste are just misplaced resource. You understand? And when they come, it's subjecting those things to a new level of use. They can be utilized at new level that we never thought of, or we knew we have not been able to put to practice. So they're coming in, and before then, Loma is doing well. Okay. Because if you look at the pressure in Lagos in terms of population density and the volume or amount of waste being generated in this state is huge, and giving the paucity of funds that the entire state had to grapple with. Health we need, transport we need, that we need, this we need. So environment we also need. And from the environment, Loma is just a subset of environment. And by the time you now think of what is going to Loma, juxtaposed with the volume of waste they need to contend with, is a lot of challenge. But they are doing well.
Speaking of waste management, and back to the matter of environmental sanitation, which is once a month, we've seen, even from our Vox Pop that we've had, we've seen citizens, Lagosians, who see that they've made comments of us going back to doing this, but the state government seem to not want that. I wonder, why don't they want that?
Thank you. What my Honorable Commissioner Barrister Tokunbo Wahab corrected is, don't put the cart before the horse. What Mr. Governor had not announced, what he did not proclaim, people should not go ahead to say he has said this. He has not told people, he has not told the public that don't go out. Why are people now taking it back, taking that around the social media that Mr. Governor has said there will be restriction, there will be... No, he hasn't. He's studying the situation. The ministry is we're studying the situation. You understand? We have this weekly, intervention now that even Mr. Governor himself, goes out, participate, trying to encourage people, trying to, that orientation, change their orientation of believing that you cannot participate in waste clearing. You cannot be part of those that will clear waste. If you can see Mr. Governor coming out, weekly to participate, then who are you? So it's starting from there. It might now build up to going back to the environmental sanitation, proper, to Mr. Governor declaring that. But for now, he's trying to encourage us to come out of our, brazen attitude of messing up our environment, believing that you don't want to step out of your door. From your door window, you toss out the waste. From your vehicle window, you toss out something. Imagine replication of your activity by the majority. Then what becomes of the state? Somebody just goes around and pure water sachet, toss it from the window of the vehicle. If everybody on that road do same, what do you think becomes of that road? Now imagine having a guest from, say, Ghana, from, say, Togo, for the first time in Lagos, and all of us from our vehicles, we've been tossing out those things. What will be the impression they will have? Then what is the impact of those things put together? So most of our people don't imagine, they don't blow up their actions to imagine if everybody do the same. Imagine you throwing things on the road, Madam Judith throwing things on the road, myself throwing it on the road. Then what happens to the state? So people just think of their own micro action that, okay, GB is just. When you put many just together, it becomes huge.
Yes, indeed.
So we have to renew our attitude and ensure that we embrace this cleanliness attitude.
Engineer Olakunle Rotimi-Akodu, want to say thank you for joining us here live. But we also want to take a look at what Nigerians thought when we went out on the streets to ask them whether or not the environmental sanitation should be reinstated. Have a look and tell us what you think at the end.
Yes, for my own opinion, it's good for government to introduce it, because if you look at the environment, the area of Lagos State now, a lot of gutter is blocked because of dustbin and the nylon and the plastic this thing. So if you check other places, especially, in short, all the Lagos State, because it's not like, but had it been, they are doing it as they are doing it before, the flood and the other things will not happen again. Yes, government should introduce it. I myself, I like for them to do it like that. So, start doing environmental sanitation as they are doing it before. It's better, and it will make Lagos State to be clean more. For my own opinion on that particular one, government should bring a tax. If somebody, it's not good if you go to abroad, something is not happening. It can't happen in abroad.
Essentially, I'm shocked to hear that government debunk such kind of information that will necessarily make Nigerians to be aware of a conscious move to make sure their environment is clean. You know, with the outbreak of cholera, which is as a result of poor, health and poor cleaning systems in recent times. In fact, it should be more embracing now. I'm even shocked to hear that government has debunked that kind of news. Cleanliness is next to godliness, so as they say, but people aren't aware of being clean now because of the busy way of Lagos essentially. So people are extremely very busy to even take care of their home, talking of taking care of the environment. It should be reintroduced as a matter of urgency, because if it is introduced, people will be conscious of taking out time, to ensure that firstly their environment is clean, secondly that their homes are also clean from any kind of infection or any kind of outbreaks that will result to total loss of life and health.
I think it's a good idea, Sha. Though people know about sanitation before, but some people, if they are not reminded of something, they won't take it serious. Like they will not see it as something relevant or necessary. So when government reintroduce it, like make it compulsory for them, so they will feel like it's important. They'll take it serious. So I think it's a good idea for government to reintroduce sanitation.
Ordinarily, if Nigerians had been doing what they're supposed to do, there wouldn't have been need to put a regulation. But now that it's observed that some places are getting flooded due to poor drainage, I think it might be helpful, because sometimes people don't take things important except if regulation is placed on it. An example is people using seat belts. If you don't put a regulation on it, a lot of people will not use it. So since you have noticed it's a culture pattern of people not doing some things except if there is a regulation, it might be important to actually make that regulation. But at the same time, the regulatory bodies, we need to also talk to them to ensure when they are taking their exercising their duties, their responsibilities as per monitoring those that are disobeying, to not take it out of place, to ensure that they don't take advantage of people. If that could be done, then we are good.
It's not where it's supposed to be, as the government has not enforced any rule on cleanliness, and it's affecting the people, both their surroundings and their health. Yeah, it is imperative that the government introduces sanitation, because it is the masses have ignored sanitation as a whole, and so it is now the government's responsibility to introduce it back so that it reduces the outbreak of things like cholera and deaths around, and give Nigeria and Lagos a good outlook.
It will be very okay if they introduce that, right? Yes. Everywhere we change and we be neat for good. Like all these cholera, disease, everything, it will reduce.
I think if the environmental sanitation is reintroduced, I think it will be nice. It will help us to get to that place where we desire to be. Because ordinarily, Nigerians, not just Lagosians, we are just naturally dirty. If the sanitation is reintroduced, it can help the environment and prevent more outbreak of diseases.